Be honest with me here for a second. Right now, as you're listening to this, do you feel just completely crushed? I'm talking about that heavy, invisible weight of modern life. You know the one. The endless expectations, the constant problem solving, the massive mental load of managing not just your own life, but kind of managing the lives of everyone around you too. But have you ever actually stopped to ask yourself if all those burdens were assigned to you in the first place?
The text shares this incredibly powerful story, a modern echo, as our source material calls it. Picture this. A high-performing leader is sitting in her car on a Sunday afternoon and she finally just lets the tears fall. She was holding her team's quarterly stress, her parents' health updates, her kids' school anxieties, and her own quiet grief, literally all at the exact same time. She was completely overloaded. But the massive breakthrough came when she realized that setting just one of those things down didn't make her a bad person. The weight she released that day, it was actually never hers to begin with.
So, welcome to today's Explainer. I am so thrilled you're joining us. We are going to unpack the incredible insights from the first week of the 30-day devotional journal, From Pressure to Peace. This is a guided journey all about letting go, trusting, and totally renewing your spirit. And week 1 is entirely focused on an absolutely vital concept, letting go of the weight.
Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to look at the weight we carry, escaping the overthinking trap, finding grace for unfixable problems, making surrender a daily choice, reclaiming rest, and finally, a beautiful companion in song. Let's dive in.
Starting with Section 1, The Weight We Carry. Distinguishing true responsibility from crushing loads.
Covering days 1 and 2 of the journal, we learn a really crucial point. Listen, you have probably been strong for a very, very long time, but the journal suggests that a lot of your exhaustion actually comes from holding things that simply aren't yours. Setting down unassigned burdens doesn't make you irresponsible, it makes you honest. It's about looking at everything on your plate and having the absolute courage to say, you know what, I wasn't actually meant to carry this one.
Galatians chapter 6 brilliantly illustrates the biblical foundation of this whole idea. The original Greek uses 2 totally different words for burden in the exact same chapter. Bare refers to a crushing weight. Think of it like a giant boulder, way too heavy for one person, which we are supposed to help each other carry. But phorshon, well, that's more like a soldier's manageable personal backpack. We are each supposed to carry our own phorshon. The burnout happens when we try to carry someone else's backpack as if it were a shared boulder.
Let's look at another modern echo from the text that hits the nail on the head. A team lead realized she had been quietly absorbing her colleagues' deadlines for 6 months. She was working late nights, grinding through weekends. She really thought she was being generous, but she was actually carrying his manageable pack, his phorshon. When she finally stepped back and handed his work back to him, yeah, his work suffered briefly, but then he grew. Sometimes letting people carry their own load is literally the kindest thing you can do for their growth.
Moving on to Section 2, Escaping the Overthinking Trap. You cannot think your way into peace.
This next part of the journey takes us through days 3 and 4, confronting our desperate need for mental control. Consider the number 14 for a second. 14. That is the exact number of different scenarios one leader rehearsed in her head while staying awake until 2 a.m. before a difficult 9 a.m. meeting. She wrote 3 different scripts, and she showed up totally exhausted. And how did the meeting actually go? Well, it went nothing like any of the 14 versions she prepared. It went much, much better. The journal points out a really hard truth here. Those hours of overthinking cost her precious sleep, but they spared her absolutely nothing. You cannot think your way into peace.
Which leads us perfectly into day 4's massive realization. Control creates tension. Surrender creates space. The text shares a story of a woman whose business launch completely fell apart, just a humiliating 6-month setback. But during that huge delay, she completely rebuilt the product, and when it finally launched, it was far, far superior to the original. She realized the delay wasn't a blocked door at all. It was exactly the space she needed to refine what would eventually walk through it.
Section 3. Grace for Unfixable Problems. Finding Strength Where Your Control Ends.
Day 5 asks us to confront an incredibly painful reality. Not every single problem in life can be engineered or strategized away. It shares one of the most poignant insights in the entire text, a story about a daughter caring for her father with dementia. Dementia is a thief no daughter can outwit. She can't fix his memory. But in the small acts, bringing a warm washcloth, just holding his hand while he eats, she discovered a grace that has absolutely nothing to do with fixing. It's simply the grace of presence. God's strength shows up right where our ability to control the outcome ends.
On to Section 4, Surrender as a Daily Choice, making letting go a repeatable action.
Tackling day 6, we shift from a mindset into a highly practical, repeatable action. So how do we actually do this in the real world? The journal introduces what it calls the wooden bowl method. Step 1, you physically write your specific worry down on a piece of paper. Step 2, place it in a wooden bowl on your dresser and say out loud, "Lord, I gave this to you today." And step 3, when that exact same worry sneaks back into your head at 3 p.m., you walk right back over to that bowl and repeat the declaration. Surrender isn't just a fleeting, one-time emotional high. It's an active choice you make on a Saturday and a Sunday and a Monday.
Section 5. Rest is not failure. Reclaiming rest as an act of trust.
This brings us to day 7, which directly confronts the overwhelming guilt that high achievers feel the exact second they stop being productive. I know I've been there. The journal redefines rest completely. Rest is not an escape, it is definitely not avoidance, it is trust made visible. It points out that even Jesus slept in a boat during a violent storm. Why? Because he knew exactly who controlled the wind. When we rest, we are visibly demonstrating our trust that the whole world isn't going to fall apart just because our hands aren't gripped on the steering wheel.
There's this great example of a woman who took her first true Sabbath in years. No emails, 0 to-do lists. And naturally, she felt terribly guilty for the first 3 hours. But by Sunday evening, after just taking a slow walk in her backyard, she received 3 brilliant ideas she had been striving for all month long. Rest didn't make her less productive or less of a leader. Rest made her whole.
And our final section, Section 6, a companion in song, sensory integration for a quieted mind. Finding peace isn't just about reading words on a page. It's about engaging your whole environment to quiet your mind. The journal specifically recommends integrating auditory companions, highlighting the Jennifer YouTube channel, which is this amazing space dedicated to soulful Christian music and peaceful reflection. These specific playlists, Morning Reset, Songs of Prayer, Come Alive Again, and Quiet Places, they're literally designed to act as the soundtrack to your surrender. They help you slow down those spiraling thoughts while you read, journal, and just reset your daily rhythms.
Tracks like Peace After the Storm or Reset Mode aren't just background noise. As the text beautifully puts it, sometimes the soul needs sound, a melody to walk these days with, a quiet hum right behind the prayer when you simply run out of words to say. This music acts as a sensory anchor, helping you fully, deeply internalize the journey from pressure to peace.
As we wrap up this explainer covering week 1 of this amazing journal, I want to leave you with this final, truly provocative reflection question straight from the text. What have you been holding that felt hardest to release? I really encourage you to take 5 minutes today. Just sit with that question, maybe put on one of those quiet playlists, and take your own first step towards surrender. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you in the next explainer.